Hello, parents, educators, and nerdy D&D fans. You have found our new home for Area of Effect, a talk show where we discuss how tabletop role-playing games benefit the whole family. We're currently in process of shifting all our old but golden episodes over to this new channel by posting a new episode every weekday until we catch back up to our new episodes. We would love your help getting this new channel up and running with a follow, share, or review. And thanks for joining us on our quest to bring more adventurers to the table.
This episode is brought to you by Welch's Fruit Snacks. Back to school season can be tough on parents, but choosing a snack you and your kids can both get behind doesn't have to be. Stock up on Welch's Fruit Snacks, made with whole fruit, and now made with no artificial dyes. It's a snack kids already love, and one you can feel good about giving them. Go back to school with Welch's Fruit Snacks, now made with no artificial dyes.
I get so many headaches every month.
It could be chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those who have 14 or fewer headache days a month. Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor. Visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Are you a parent or educator with little sidekicks saying,
"Will you play D&D with me?"
but you don't know how to start? Never fear, Story Guider is here. Made by any awarded TTRPG kids, Story Guider is a coloring book choose-your-own-adventure for kids ages 2 through 7. It's a great way to introduce your young heroes to tabletop role-playing while also practicing social-emotional learning skills and other developmental skills along the way. Story Guider can be used with classrooms full of kids, in parent and child play, and even as an early reader solo adventure. All of the art is made by humans. Your mission is simple. Now through September, find Story Guider on backerkit.com to help bring the expansion and redesign to life, or visit ttrpgkids.itch.io to find the series anytime.
Are you ready for a fence? A Kids Table podcast.
At the D&D table, who's in charge of the story? Is it the players around the table, the DM, or is it the dice who decide? I ran straight into these questions in a recent episode of our actual play D&D show, The Kids Table. We had just started a battle, my 4 players against an automaton who I had designed to be beaten not with overwhelming force, but with tools around the playing area. But through a series of lucky rolls, or unlucky, depending on your point of view, my automaton went first, 2 of my players failed their dexterity saving throws, and then I was faced with this choice as I rolled damage. The 2 of you are going to take half damage. The 2 of you are going to take full damage.
Just like my breath
And
weapon.
the 2 of you are going to be stunned.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no.
What do you get?
What just happened?
How much HP do you have?
19.
How much HP do you have?
20.
Okay, you both take 18 points of lightning damage. What you hear there is me rolling 10 twice on my 2d10. Hugely lucky for me, right? But I ended up fudging the rolls so that my 2 players' characters actually live. Why did I do that? Did I prevent the dice from telling a good story? Or did I take back control on my players' behalf? Today on Area of Effect, Allison and I talk about failing forward and why your players' well-being might be the perfect antidote to your mistakes as a DM.
Welcome to Area of Effect, a podcast by the Kids Table, where we discuss how tabletop RPGs benefit kids and answer your questions about playing TTRPGs with the kids at your own table. Good morning, Ryan.
Hey Allison, how's it going?
It's going pretty great. I am psyched. I got to play D&D for fun and be a player the other day.
Oh, that's fun.
Spontaneously.
Nice.
It's been a while since that happened. We went over to a friend's house and my friend was like, "Do you want to play D&D?" And I was like, I don't have anything prepared." And they were like, "Let's just play this pre-made campaign and I'll DM." And I was like, "Yeah."
That's excellent.
It was pretty great.
Congratulations. That sounds super fun.
So, the clip we just heard. Dicey moment.
Dicey.
High stakes.
Dicey. That's funny.
Dicey, ha, you got it.
I did.
I was very curious what happened there because you took a moment in the middle of the narrative and kind of, broke your character as the DM to ask, what is your HP right now?
Yep.
And you made a face. You made a face when you rolled that die. If you haven't watched on YouTube, I encourage you to watch on YouTube to see his face.
It's pretty great. I make two
when he
faces.
rolls.
Yep. So what happens there? To give context, the players are in a library trying to find a book, and they come upon this automaton, and the automaton attacks. And we roll initiative, and the automaton rolls first. And so the automaton gets to go first, which means that I got to play with a new toy. So I was super excited, and I decided to do a beam of lightning attack, which was perfect because all 4 of the players had just gotten out of an elevator, so they were all grouped up. So, like, how often do you ever get to do an area of effect attack as a DM that hits all of your players? It's incredibly satisfying.
Very satisfying.
The problem is, I had scaled the encounter appropriately, but when I rolled the damage, it was 2d10, and I rolled a 10, and then I rolled another 10.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, like, that never happens to me as a DM. I always roll just trash dice. So in no universe did I think, oh, hey, I am going to roll one attack that is going to completely demolish 2 of the party in one round, which is effectively what happened. So it's I think a dexterity saving throw. 2 of the players fail, and I start rolling the dice. I roll the 10, and I'm like, ooh, that's fun. And then I roll the second 10, and I'm like, oh no, because so behind my DM screen, I have a cheat sheet that shows the player's stats. So I'm like, as a DM, you got to read your players. You got to know who your players are. And I decided to stall for time for a second and be like, how much HP do you guys have? Just so that they can.
So you actually knew the answer. Yeah. You were stalling for time.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
No, I was stalling because I was in my head trying to figure out how to fail forward on this one. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is failing forward, and there's 2 different types of failing forward in D&D and TTRPGs. There's when the players fail, how do you keep the story moving forward? And when you as a DM fail, how do you keep the game moving forward? And this is an example of the second, because I as a DM need to be aware of all of the pieces that are in play. And at that moment, at the top of the very first round of battle, I can't let 2 of my players go down. That's not going to be fun for anybody, because we could have had a TPK there in 2 rounds. And for maybe for your table, that would be okay. I know that for some of the, the more famous live plays, a TPK like that would be, preferable even because that's just the way that the story needs to go. But we're telling a story with kids, and I know who my kids are at the table, and I know that if I let Chloe's character Serena go down at the top of the first round, she's not going to have any more fun. And so what you see in that moment is me rolling incredibly well on the dice and then figuring out, how do I fudge this so I don't win quite so fast?
Still win, but not quite so fast.
Well, because so many people are afraid of playing D&D because they view it as a battle between the players and the DM. And for many players and for many years, that's sort of the way that D&D was constructed. And again, if that's how you want to play, that is a valid way to play if everybody at the table understands that's what's happening. But for our table, it's about telling a good story. And Can a good story have players go down? Absolutely. But should a good story have players go down the first roll of the first turn of the first round? I don't know. That felt kind of not great to me.
It's a kind of an insignificant feeling way where it's not, they walk into a room, blam, you're gone.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Like,
you didn't even have a chance to do anything. It didn't even feel like one of those epic moments where you go down, but you're heroic in the moment or something. It's just like blindsided.
Right. And it's blindsided because it was a DM fail. It was, I had balanced the encounter correctly mostly, except I got extraordinarily lucky in a way that would have made the game less fun for the players. So that's why I fudge that roll. I make it, instead of 20 damage, I make it so it's 18 damage so that neither player goes down. They're still stunned for that round. They're still, knocking on death's door, but they still have a chance. Their characters still have a chance to affect the tide of the battle.
And thank goodness you did that, because then the next turn, the next round, another player does go down.
Yes.
If you had 3 of the 4 players down, there's no hope, right?
No, that would have been a TPK. And we have, I have a conception for the kids table, which is our live play, what a TPK could look like and keep all of the players still invested in the story. But it's not preferable. Like, that's not where I was wanting to go with that battle. And yeah, in that next turn, our rogue goes up, and the rogue didn't make a great decision, I would say. So he sees how powerful this thing is. They are starting to figure out that there's got to be a different way to take this thing down. He just goes up with his daggers and goes stab, stab, on a metal automaton. And so I felt like him getting attacked on that next turn was an appropriate consequence to his choice, right? And that's the difference there, right? There was nothing that spurred that first turn. That second turn, you're starting to figure out, maybe this thing is a little bit more lethal than you want it to be, and you still go up and stab. Okay, well, it's going to get you with its saw blades then. And
in between, they had already found out that the automaton was resistant to a lot of different types of damage. So he already knew that, it was going to be pennies on the automaton. Right. Exactly. I think they were doing like 2 damage at a time when it should have been much more.
Right.
So I think this is an interesting, sequence in the story, because it shows that you as a DM aren't unwilling to let your players go down, because one of them does go down immediately.
Yes.
So how do you adjudicate the difference? Like, when is it acceptable to fudge a roll behind the screen, and when is it not acceptable to do that?
Excellent question. And I would say it's part of that fail forward methodology. So the other times that a player has gone down in battle in the kids table have both been my son, have both been Beckett, once in season 1 and once earlier in season 2. And I was willing to let both of those things happen because they were a part of the narrative structure. They happened after a series of tries that he was doing to get out of a dangerous situation, and it just wasn't happening, and it felt like it was a part of the story structure. And I could conceive of on the fly how he would get out of it later, right? It wasn't just going to be a player character death. It was a part of like the learning curve that I was building for him over that session. And I would say the same thing is true for what was happening with Dylan in this previous episode, the battle with the automaton. He was being a chaotic rogue, and he has made a number of choices like this over the series that have worked in his favor. So I wanted to show him what it looks like when it doesn't work in his favor. And I think that is okay too. And the difference for me, I would say, between that moment and the moment with Serena and Sophia is that it was earned. He had placed himself in a situation where it made sense for his character to go down. Sophia and Serena, that was a series of very lucky rolls on my part and very unlucky rolls on their part. If they succeed their dexterity saving throw, they're fine. They can take the half damage of the 20 that I roll, and they're both still up. If I roll slightly worse on my damage dice, then they're both fine too. But I don't feel like a player should feel bad if they haven't made a choice and they are in a situation where they're about to go down. For me, the rules that we've constructed at our table, the ethos that we've constructed at our table, I, as the DM, am in charge of a lot of things, and one of the things that I am in charge of is my players' well-being. And if they're going to feel bad about themselves based on nothing that they have done wrong, that means that I have done something wrong. And so if I have failed in that, how do I fail forward? What is the next move for me to make? That's the difference between those two situations for me.
Yeah, and I'll point out it happened to very different players, right? Dylan is much older than Chloe. Dylan has, I would say, maybe not as like personal or deep connection to his character as Chloe has. For sure. With Serena, yes. And Dylan just plays the game differently. So It feels to me like that character going down doesn't feel nearly as hurtful as a character like Serena going down.
I think that you're right about that. I think that that's one of the things that I as a DM am having to attend to, right? Is the differences among the players. We've talked before about how developmentally for young children, their character is a part of them. It just is them on the board. And so this is a part of their identity formation. This is a part of them trying to figure out who they are. And so, they can have fairy wings or they can breathe acid like a dragon, but like it really is them making the decisions. Dylan's a teenager and he's in that abstract thinking phase. And so he can conceive of a character who is not him. And so this character is making choices that Dylan, maybe Dylan would make these choices, but that Dylan wouldn't necessarily make, right? So I am playing into those developmental tropes also. But I will also say that I'm not going to just like destroy Dylan because he is a hack and slash type of player, right? I still am attending to the table as a whole also. So the choice to allow, I guess if you want to say it, Dylan's character to go down, for Aragon to go down, is as much about the table methodology as it is about the player.
It's interesting to note and to point out that a lot of the reason, if not the main reason for having a DM screen is to allow the DM to do this, right? Part of the reason is to keep things secret, right? Behind the screen. But I think maybe a bigger reason is that people aren't seeing your role, because then how do you get out of it?
Right.
And there are certain moments where, like on Dimension 20, they'll bring out the Box of Doom. And so there's a lot more anticipation and build up around that because everybody's going to see the result. As soon as it happens. So I think there's a reason for both of those choices, rolling behind the screen and rolling in front of the screen. So for DMs who feel like maybe they don't feel like they have permission to do this, just remember that's the reason you have a DM screen in the first place.
For sure. And we've done both on the kids table too. There are a couple of moments in both season 1 and season 2 where I do roll in front of the screen intentionally because I do want the players to see what my role is, because it matters that much and that transparency in that moment feels important. But fudging rolls is okay. You have to be a little careful because you want the players to be able to trust you as the DM and that you are telling a collaborative story and not just the story that you want to tell as the DM. So you've got to be careful that if you're fudging a roll, it's rare and that you're doing it for a reason that uplifts the table rather than uplifts you as the DM. I would say that's why.
Not like, oh, I got a crit on that. Oh, I got a crit on this.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, oh, no, you're all dead. Yeah. Right. Like the fudging the rolls is for me is an intentional part of keeping the table cohesion. You can see it's not like I made the damage 0 for that attack against Chloe and Serena. I made it so that they were on their last legs, but I did it because the automaton was supposed to be kind of an impossible creature. They weren't supposed to be able to beat it with their spells and weapons. There are other things in the room that they need to be using to take this thing down. But they hadn't even gotten into the room yet to figure that out. So taking 2 of them out on that first turn of the first round before they have a chance to even figure out like what is happening, that is my fault as a DM, and is just the way the initiative dice went. It's the way their dexterity saving throws went. It's the way the damage dice went, right? Like sometimes the dice are just wrong, man. Like sometimes it's okay to as the DM be like, the story, I'm going to massage the story ever so slightly this way, because for the sake of the table, they just can't die in this moment. Maybe they'll die later, but they can't die in this moment. But you have to be careful when you fudge dice behind the screen, because you need your players to continue to trust you. It's a difficult balance.
Yeah, let me talk about how DMs can also err on the other side.
Yeah.
So the very first time I ever DM'd, which Ryan knows I dragged my feet for a long time about DMing. I was a player for a lot of years.
She's so good. Tell her she's good, so she does it more.
Well, this time I was very inexperienced. I played just with my husband as one player. So I made several mistakes in planning that out. And one of the mistakes was it was a one shot. We were playing a pre-made story. Yeah, it was a pre-made story. One of the mistakes I made was I didn't give him a companion character. I think if you have only one player, you should always give a companion player so that like somebody can heal, somebody can pick you up, somebody has different skills. There's a lot of reasons to have companion player, but I didn't know that yet. So it was just him. He comes up on the boss in the end, and I rolled a crit, and I took him down in one shot.
Yep.
My big mistake was I didn't just fudge the roll. I just said what it was, and I was like, well, you're dead. First round. This bad guy goes first. I guess you're down. I didn't know what to do about it, right? In the moment. And then it was kind of too late once I had already said it, to be like, well, no, that's not what happens. So that was a big mistake I made. And that mistake terrified me and kept me from DMing for a long time, because I just didn't allow myself to fudge the roll.
Yeah.
In that moment. And so I felt like, oh my gosh, I can't DM because I'm going to TPK my players. And that's not the kind of DM that I want to be.
I would say give yourself a little grace on that, because it was your first time. And again, because sometimes the dice just do squirrely things. Like, I know, knowing your husband, that he was fine and he thought that it was actually kind of funny what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you weren't playing this like epic adventure. It was like your first foray into this, and you won. Congratulations, DM. You won the story.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I know why you felt bad, because that's not what you were intending to do. And like, that's part of the learning process too. And that's part of why, the DM is a part of the table also. You should feel good about the story that is being told also. So if you feel bad, that is one of those times to invoke that rule 3 and step back and say, okay, I'm not having fun right now. We need to stop playing for a second. I, as the DM, need to take a breath and figure out what did I mess up here, and how do we restart this so that we both feel good about it?
So let's talk about how this connects with our big rules, because I think it connects to several of them. You said our third big rule is when the game stops being fun, we stop playing.
Right.
So I think a part of that is the DM's role is to try to keep it fun and keep them wanting to play another session.
Right.
Because what's the point if you destroy your players so much that they're like, well, that wasn't any fun. I don't ever want to play with you again.
Right. Right. Exactly. Like that's where the failing forward, that's where the forward part comes from, right? Like, if you as a DM have misstructured a battle so that everybody goes down super fast, they don't have a chance to play, what does the next part of the story look like then? Like, the players around the table deserve to have the chance to influence their fate, right? And they deserve to be a part of the collaborative storytelling element of the game. So if you have reached a part of if the dice are preventing you from being collaborative in the storytelling, that's when you fudge the dice. And that's when you say to your players, okay, here's how this is going to work for now, and we're going to figure out how we get this back on track.
Your players need to always have hope that if something goes wrong, I mean, that's part of what we're teaching kids with the dice, right? If you fail, there's hope because there's another answer. You can come up with a more creative solution. You can rely on somebody else. You're building resilience. If there's no hope of any way to escape this battle, then that's not fun. And the other sense is if you are okay with the player going down, it should feel meaningful.
Yeah.
Either you deserved it because
Right.
you stepped in front of the invincible automaton knowing that was probably going to be the case.
Right.
Or, it was an epic and heroic moment that makes your character's death or going unconscious feel justified and feel worthwhile in that moment. The other rule that I think this connects to is that we treat everyone at the table, the players and the characters in the game, with kindness, mercy, and justice.
Yeah.
So I think absolutely fudging the roll is offering kindness and mercy to your players around your table.
Yeah, for sure. And mercy, the way that we define mercy is that every person has needs, and those needs come from a place that you can meet. So it's not necessarily just like always make sure your players are not getting hit hard. That's not what mercy means. But mercy means, in this specific instance, Chloe needed to know that she's safe at the table. So I needed to make sure that I, as a DM, am telling a story where she feels safe at the table. There can be danger, there can be intrigue, there can be, things there can be challenges that she has to face and to meet. And murdering her character outright at the outset of a battle is not showing that type of mercy. It's not meeting that need for her. So I need to figure out how the story is going to meet that need given those conditions.
Is this any different, Ryan, for kid players versus adult players?
No, not necessarily. It really depends on who you have at the table. Like, there is a developmental piece that goes along with this, right? Kids, upper elementary kids who are in that concrete stage of operations where they are very much identified with their character, because the character is a piece of them, then you have to be careful with that. But just because an adult is in abstract thought, that doesn't mean that they don't also identify with their character. I can remember a time when I was playing D&D, and I had this backstory, this tragic backstory where my wife was dead, and the only thing I had left of her was this bow that was also a harp. And then the DM, as a part of good storytelling, actually, the big bad in a minor moment takes my wife's bow harp thing and destroys it. And I can remember as an adult, I'm a 30-year-old man at this point. It hurt physically when he did that. And I don't think
you were crushed.
I was crushed. And I don't think I understood that was in me. And he definitely didn't understand that was in me.
Yeah.
And he was so he figured out pretty immediately that this was not a good move. And so we talked it out, and we're totally fine about it. And it actually became a really cool part of the story. But I appreciated that my DM in that moment was like, oh, I messed up there. I overstepped. You and I got to talk about this. Are you actually okay? So, yes, it's different for kids and adults because developmentally kids and adults are in different places. But sometimes you do have to fudge things with adults too, because we got stuff going on too, man. Sometimes we just want to play happy hugs and puppies. And if the dice are going to be mean to me and I'm going to walk away from the table feeling bad about myself, we got to grapple with that. It doesn't mean that everything has to be nice all the time, but sometimes you got to attend to the emotions at the table.
I think if your players ever respond to something you do with, wait, actually,
right.
You probably screwed up.
you got to, at least that's a moment to take a step back and be like, are we telling a collaborative story, or am I the DM making decisions here that maybe don't make sense?
I was on the receiving side of a fudge roll as a player one time that I really appreciated. I was a new player. We were playing our first campaign. I had played one shot before then. And it was even early on in it. I was a ranger. I had a wolf companion. I didn't totally understand yet how squishy rangers were. And I had the problem of like going up to the front. And I also did not understand how squishy wolves were. I just was a new player and I didn't totally understand like the balance and the different roles the different classes were supposed to play together and everything. So we came upon a tower and there was like a young dragon in the tower, which I also didn't realize how big a deal that was. And so I like went in to attack with my bow. I think I had like half cover behind some rubble or something. And then I was like, oh, I need to do more damage. So I'll send my wolf in to bite the dragon. Well, then it's the dragon's turn and the dragon has fire breath and takes out my wolf in one hit.
Yep.
I sat there stunned and like could not speak because I felt this attachment to the animal, right? And like, for me in like movies, like animal loss is like huge for me, sometimes even more so than human loss, right? And I love animals and I have dogs and everything. So it just was very personal. And the DM realized right away, who's now one of my players on the kids table sometimes, Aaron. And he realized right away, like, oh, this is a bigger deal to her than I thought it was going to be because of my stunned silence. And he was like, okay, now that you understand what you're up against, do you want to go back and do that turn again? And I was like conflicted because he didn't fudge the roll at first because he didn't realize how big a deal it would be to me. But once he saw it, he offered me that. And I was like, I feel like that's cheating. I don't really want to do that. But also this wolf is so important to me. So I did end up like accepting redoing the turn and just not sending the wolf in. I think we just said the wolf didn't go in. But then after that, I was terrified to use my wolf in any sense because I just felt like she was so vulnerable. So then it led my character to this like touching moment that she has with the wolf in the woods, where I was like, you're not safe with me in this moment. Like you need to go be free in the woods and hopefully we can find each other again someday. And that felt like a much more meaningful way to kind of conclude the relationship with the wolf than sending her in and being one-shotted by the dragon's breath.
Do you feel so I can imagine that some people who are listening to this feel like we are cheapening the story element of D&D, right? That the dice are the storytellers and that we are just living in their world. And there is this primacy to the dice rolls that should overpower our sense of what should happen in the game. Do you feel like in that moment your experience was cheapened?
No, I feel like it was made, like the depth was increased because then it like made me think more about my character's relationship with the wolf and the wolf's relationship with me and with the natural world, and that the wolf had left its like wild state to come with me. I mean, I think it gave me a lot more questions that led me to answers that created, I think, a lot more beautiful story.
I want to just point that out because there are some tables for whom the dice are primary. And if that's what everybody's agreed to and that's one of your table rules, then that is totally fine. Like that does actually, like you can see some of those beautiful moments in the more professional live plays out there, actual plays out there, that, when the dice actually do what you want them to do, there is this moment where the table just sort of sings, right? And you have to be sure, 100% sure, that all of your players are in that with you. For us, I think in both situations, for me with Chloe at the table and for Allison playing for almost the first time with her wolf, I don't think the players were on board with that. Like, there are other things going on in people's lives, either developmentally or experientially, and those to me are more important than what the dice do. Sometimes the dice are wrong. And if you play like the dice are always wrong, then D&D is not the game for you. There are other TTRPGs that you can play where dice are not as primary and you can tell different stories. Like, part of the point of D&D 5e specifically is the way the dice work. So you got to be real careful again if you're going to be fudging rolls. But you as a table have to decide if the dice are primary or if your players are primary. And at least for us, the way that a player feels about themselves trumps what the dice are going to do.
I agree with that. I do know that there's other people who play that different ways, and I don't think either way is wrong.
I agree with that. Either way is totally fine as long as the entire table is on board with what you're doing.
If you've enjoyed hearing us talk about DMing for kids and our tips, I encourage you to follow our DM tip video playlist on YouTube. You can get to it easily with our short link, bit.ly/DM4kids. That's DMFORKIDS. Also, I encourage you, if you have a minute, to give our show a like and a review, because that's the best way for new listeners to find us. And we really want to continue to build this community of like-minded folks who enjoy D&D and are interested in playing with kids now or in the future when your kids grow up. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks for chatting with me today about episode 15 and 16 and all the chaos that went on behind and in front of the screen.
Hey, chaos is fun. It is one of the elements of the kids' table that I like the most, and I hope that your tables are exactly the right type of chaos for the moment that you're in.
Beautiful. What a beautiful send-off. Thanks for listening to Area of Effect. Check out our original actual play D&D show with kids at the table on YouTube, social media, or your favorite podcast app. Be a part of the ongoing conversation by emailing your questions to questions@thekidstabledd.com. Find resources to bring the adventure to your own table at www.thekidstabledd.com. And join our quest to bring more kids to the D&D table at patreon.com/thekidstabledd. Because when kids are at the table, everyone wins.